Well, hi there, YouTube. Thanks for joining me tonight. The title of this little video is going to be Relationships in the Philippines and How I Met Baby May. Oh, Baby May. But she's getting more and more involved with the channel. So she's very, very shy, very, very private. But she's been hanging out with me, and she's been she actually bounced into a video I did a few days ago, and there was a bunch of comments from people that were really sweet and constructive and nice, and she liked that because she was terrified that somebody would say something negative. And Filipinos, if you don't know it, are very, very concerned. I mean, it's crisis mode if there's any gossip going on about them. So she's terrified of gossip. And it's not just her, it's every Filipino that I've ever met. They're more concerned with what the neighbor thinks about them than what their husband thinks about them. So, I don't know, go figure. It's just one of those things you can't put your finger on. So anyway, she's mellowing out about that. I said, you know what, people are asking about you. I said, all right, if I take a picture of you and put it in the thumbnail for this video. And she finally agreed and said, yeah, but I'll pick out what I'm going to wear. Okay, good. And so she just doesn't want me to talk too much about our personal life. But I said, she goes, well, tell them how we met. I said, okay, I will. But before I do that, I thought I'd give you a little background into my relationships so far here in the Philippines. And I don't know if I mentioned this already, but tomorrow I'm doing a live stream. Tonight's Monday night, the 27th. So by the time this thing hits, the live stream will already be over. But in a few hours, I'm going to get with my friend Gio in the morning. Gio in the Philippines is his channel, if you want to watch it later. And it's going to be Gio Live, and I'm going to be a little guest on his show. And we're going to talk about dating disasters. So I'll have to hold back on some of the details that I talk about in this video and save it for tomorrow morning. But a little background is that when I came over here, I had actually been 15 years out of an extremely toxic and unhealthy relationship with my ex. And I literally lived in the United States, lived and worked by myself, single, without dating for 15 years. And prior to coming over here, I had decided that I was going to just remain single. I watched every YouTube video and looked at every report. Spent 3 years surfing the web, gathering information about the Philippines. And I narrowed it down like I think most guys do. You got 10 countries or 5 countries, and you look at this, the cost of living and the English and the weather and the bob and the boop and whatever it is that's floating your boat, and you narrow it down to one place or another. And mine happened to be the Philippines, and then I drilled it down to Dumaguete. And I've been here for almost 3 years now, and I don't regret the decision one bit. But when I came here, the primary driver was I just wanted to live somewhere within my means. I had unloaded all my stuff. Actually, most of my stuff got unloaded for me in the Great Recession. Everything that I had worked for the last 35 years just got wiped out in less than 1 year. So I didn't have a lot of physical possessions, and I didn't have the time left to acquire them again. And in the meantime, I found out that physical possessions hadn't made me happy anyway. They had just more or less felt like anchors. I didn't own them, they owned me. I had to make a payment on them or insure them or maintain them or whatever. And I just made a total life change decision and said, I'm just going to drop all that crap. The minute I qualify for my Social Security, I'm going to take it, and I'm going to go over there, and I'm going to get a new attitude, or I'm not. So I came over here with the sole intent really just to live a simple, non-possession filled life, kind of regain my soul back, if you will, refine my personality, get reinvigorated on life, and all those things took place. But low on my list was to get into a relationship. In fact, I watched all these YouTube videos about rent and budget and all this kind of stuff. Those were the ones that always got my attention. And sprinkled in, I would watch the ones about dating and marriage and girls and foreigners and all this and that and the other. And I watched those, and I came to the conclusion that if half of what these guys said was true, that just me being a foreigner is going to make me kind of a hot commodity, and that there's more than enough available single females for me to meet and date, and if I want to enter into a relationship with. But the sage advice that they all gave, which is very good, was don't move in with the first girl that you meet. You know, get there and date a lot and sift through it and get used to things. And then if you find somebody that really stands out, then you're going to want to possibly, get serious with her. So I came over to the Philippines and I set up tent, and 6 weeks later I moved in the very first girl that I met. So there you go. So much for my 3 years of research. But in my own defense, I think that it was, I had become this hermit, if you will, for the last 15 years, just living by myself, no physical contact, no exchange of ideas, no laughter, no dates, no fun, no male-female interaction whatsoever, except with people on a business level. And so when I came over here, I guess that after I got settled in and went through my whole deal of getting an apartment and deciding that I liked it enough and staying, the first person that gave me the first female that gave me any kind of attention whatsoever, who, by the way, happened to be extremely pretty, extremely feminine, had all the qualities that I was looking for as far as appearance and even attitude. She was really easy to laugh and get along with. It's like, well, this is awesome. I just got lucky. I don't want this to go away. So sure, move on in with me. Well, I should have listened to the YouTube video, guys. But that being said, she was a great woman. She was a lot of fun. She was everything aforementioned. But over time, it became apparent to me that her and I were just not on the same sheet of music. And I had one thing that I knew I would not do, and that would be is to enter into another long-term relationship where I knew I was eventually going to spend more days unhappy than happy that I was in that relationship. And it became pretty clear to me towards about month 6, 7, 8 of our 9-month relationship in the beginning that was going to be the case. So ended that. Lesson learned. We're still friends, and we both moved on. But that still left me single, which is where I wanted to be. I did not want to get into a serious relationship. So I won't bore you with every girl that I ever dated for the next year before I met May. But what I will tell you is that if I looked at them and I hung out with them for a day, a week, sometimes a couple of months, one thing that I consistently did was I always told them, no, I'm not looking for a long-term relationship. I'm just looking to hang out, just looking to be friends. I never lied to them. And they seemed to accept that for a little while, but then the pressure would start. And more often than not, they would want me to commit more to them than I was willing to do. And it was a real simple way to take my own temperature on that, was I would just simply look at the person and say to myself, okay, well, she's really pretty, but let's get past all the exterior stuff. Can I see myself happily married or happily engaged or happily living with this person in a year, in 3 years, in 5 years? Do I have confidence in this person if I was to fall sick next week, and that they would not only take care of me, but they wouldn't, run out the door with my wallet. Do I see myself being able to improve their life and them being able to improve mine? Do I see us as a team? And if I couldn't answer yes to those questions, I would, as soon as I felt that way, I would tell them, I don't think this is going to work. I didn't want to just string somebody along. I didn't want to take somebody out of the dating pool that could be out there meeting Mr. Right when obviously I'm Mr. Wrong. And even though they may have felt that what we had together was awesome, that's great. But I also knew that if I wasn't happy today, that in 6 months I was going to be less happy. And I was just setting us up for a bigger failure later on. So that long-winded statement was all about what the new decisions that I had started to make. I had been a real wimp, if you will, in the United States. And I just was not going to let that happen again. Now, don't get me wrong. It wasn't like I was just telling these women, get out of my life and kick them out the door. That's not the way it went. I would have a discussion with them, and none of them had moved in with me. So they weren't live-ins. So I wasn't sending anybody out to begin with. But I would end the relationship. And at the end of the day, I'm still friends with a lot of those people. During that time, one thing that I kind of learned by osmosis and just sort of observed without it really sinking in was that when I did break up with somebody, I put myself right back out on the market, and so did they. So there wasn't a lot of anguish. There wasn't a lot of really big broken hearts going in either direction. So I sort of slowly realized that when I split up with them, it wasn't I didn't mean that much to them at the end of the day. It was more of a convenience thing with me, and there really weren't any true feelings to begin with. And if there were, they were easily squashed. So I always felt solid about my decision. When May came along, May and I met. We were actually introduced. It was sort of a blind date thing. A friend of mine was dating a young lady, and I was having dinner with them. I was the third wheel, and the young lady asked me, "How come you're single?" I think I was just meeting her. I only met her I think that was the second time I'd met her. And she asked me why I was single. I told her, and I offhandedly said, "You ought to set me up with somebody. That's your job." And sure enough, she did. She came up with Baby May. And May and I met about a year ago. And we've had our moments in the beginning where things didn't really go as smooth as silk. We had communication issues. There was some jealousy issues. We still have some issues. I mean, we don't have this perfect relationship. But I can tell you that one thing May exhibited was qualities that I never saw exhibited not only in the other Filipinas that I dated, but in just people in general. And that's why she's so near and dear to my heart. Not only do I think she's really, really beautiful, exterior appearance, but I just know that she has a very, very good heart. In all the time we've been together, and like I said, it's been about a year, there's never been a time where she's asked me for any money, no significant money, bus money, which goes to visit her mother. And of course, when we go out to eat or we purchase anything, I buy it, but I'm the one with the income, not her. She has a spiritual life that I really admire. Occasionally she'll go to church with her sister on some sort of big day that's celebrated. I'm not Catholic. I'm Christian, but I'm not Catholic. She's Catholic, so they have these, deals that I don't understand. But what she does do every morning and every evening is she sets aside about 30 minutes in the morning and about 30 minutes in the evening. And she just sort of closes the door. She doesn't announce it. And she spends time with a little book she uses to pray with. And she shuts out the world. She shuts me out. She shuts down all the noise, turns off her phone, and she just goes and talks to our Creator. And she does it because she wants to. It's not something that anybody's telling her to do. And I think that most of the time she is praying for people and she is giving thanks. And that is just something that I think is either in you or it isn't. And I never saw that type of A, attitude, and B, diligence in anybody else that I've met previously. So that's the respect level that I have for her is extremely high. I asked her once or twice about her background. And without going into a lot of detail, because she really is very, very private, little May was one day was here at the house, and she was complaining about her shoulder, and she said it's broke, and I thought she had broken an arm. But when she said broke, what she meant was, when she says that something's broke, it just isn't working right. So her arm was hurting her that day. And I said, well, how did you hurt your arm? Was that recently? I mean, did you fall down or something? She goes, oh no. When I was 10 years old, it was my job to carry bags of corn down a hill, drop them, go back up, grab another bag. Because her parents were very simple people. And she lived in the province, and everybody worked. At the age of 15, she was pulled out of school and sent off to Manila to work with her aunt as a caretaker. She did that for 10 years. I had to pull that information out of her. I mean, she just doesn't act like it's any big deal, but her two sisters went to school, and her paycheck went to pay for her sister's education. They now have really good jobs with companies here in town, and they now reimburse her on a monthly basis when they can. So there's the family dynamic that's at work there. And she doesn't boast about it. She doesn't brag about it. She's got a savings account that's a rival most people's. She's just not a spender. She understands that in order to have a future, she's going to have to set that aside. So her relationship with money is one of respect, where I've given other people money, and if I gave them 1,000 pesos today, it was gone tomorrow. And if tomorrow I gave them 5,000 pesos, thinking that would be enough, it would be gone the day after tomorrow. So at one point in time, May came, and she didn't have any money in her pocket. In fact, she went to the Sorry store next door to get me a pack of cigarettes. I asked her to please go and get me a pack of cigarettes. She said, I need an extra 11 pesos. I said, why? And she said, well, she goes, I owe them 11 pesos. I said, why? She said, well, I had to buy some feminine product from them, and I was short 11 pesos, and they let me leave with the product. And I said, you don't have any money in your wallet? She said, no. And so I gave her some money, and she went down and she bought my cigarettes and paid the 11 peso debt. And she came to give me back the money, and I said, you keep the change. Just make sure you have some money always in your pocket. I think that money's still in there. I really do. Again, the only time she ever busts me up for any money is when she sees 2 bikinis being displayed, or a pair of shorts, or a little top or something at what's called okai-okai stores. These are places where you buy pre-loved clothing, and it costs $1 for this and $2 for that. And if she sees something that really sparkles and sets up, hits her eye, she lets me know. Well, I'd like to see that. But if you can't, it's okay. So we always pull over and let her get her thing. There's a lot of Mayisms that she has that I think I'm going to set aside for another video. Um, things that she says and does that are very unique and really very funny. Um, when she meets somebody, May is very interested in someone that is simple. In other words, when she meets someone that's real flashy or gaudy or displays a lot of wealth or displays a lot of whatever, you know what I mean? Just kind of a garish type of person. She kind of withdraws from that. And she'll be polite and talk to them, but she has absolutely no interest in them whatsoever. If she meets somebody that's got a similar life to hers, then she's there and is very endeared to them and wants to be their friend and wants to encourage them. Many, many times May has sent messages off to different girls that have gone through a breakup or whatever and offered a word of encouragement or a word of advice. And that's just not something that I saw in other people. In other words, she's very, very connected with her heart and her soul and of sharing her compassion and her feelings because that's what she has to give. You see, she grew up with absolutely nothing. And so she has a giving heart. And since she doesn't have things or possessions or money to give to anybody, she gives them her time and she gives them her emotions and she shares compassion with them. And so that's where her and I feel like I have a special person in my life because she shares her time with me. She shares love with me. She shares her dreams with me. And she's always expressing that with either a look or a touch or a smile. So that's kind of the story about me and Baby May. I haven't touched on 1% of her, and I haven't touched on half of 1% of her and I, but golly gee whiz, look at the time. Okay, so coming up in the future, I'm going to be doing, I may have May come join me if she wants to. I'm going to be doing some Mayisms. I'm going to be doing, I'm going to ask the question, should I buy a house here in the Philippines? And I've got some other guests that are going to be coming on. So if you like what we're doing here, please hit the subscribe button. And like I always tell you, if you don't subscribe, I don't blame you. All right, well, guys, I will talk to you guys later. And try to catch me live with Gio on Gio in the Philippines. That will be on tomorrow, but it'll always be looping. Okay? I'll see you next time.